Tonight, the U.S. launches strikes on 3 nuclear sites in Iran. President Trump announcing a successful attack.
The strikes were a spectacular military success.
Stuck in a conflict zone, Canadians desperate to find a way home as the situation escalates.
You can't even book a flight until July 15th.
Also pushing back against Liberal legislation as the House rises for summer break.
Unfortunately, it's been limited to what the conversations have been with First Nations leadership.
A medical breakthrough in the fight against diabetes.
I don't have constant worry anymore. I can just live.
The promising results of a new trial and the treatment changing lives. And a cultural connection, one bead at a time.
Since reconnecting with culture, it's completely changed who I am. I'm a whole new person.
How artists are looking to the future by reaching into their past on this Indigenous Peoples Day.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news. President Donald Trump confirming tonight the U.S. military struck sites in Iran, directly joining Israel's air campaign to destroy the country's nuclear program. The U.S. attacked 3 sites, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. The president says the planes are now outside of Iran airspace. Here's some of what the American commander-in-chief had to say tonight from the White House.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
The U.S. attack on Iran coming tonight, despite Donald Trump stating just days ago he would make a decision within 2 weeks on a course of action. CTV's Kamal Karamali on what we know about the strikes and the Canadians caught in the conflict zone.
U.S. President Donald Trump announcing tonight America's involvement in the war between Israel and Iran.
Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity.
In one of the loudest ways possible, using B-2 bombers, according to a U.S. official, that completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo.
These facilities like the Fordo is the one that had a lot of the centrifuges and the refinement of the uranium. And again, it was kept deep for that particular reason.
A major blow to Iran after day 9 of the ongoing conflict. 2 Iranian drones breached Israel's air defenses overnight. Israel also claiming it killed 3 senior Iranian commanders. Caught up in the chaos,
I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. It was shock.
Haroum Testouri, a dual Canadian and French citizen traveling in Iran, he spent 2 days fleeing the country, only depending on his French passport.
Do you feel like you got any advice or help from Canada?
I don't think so. I use only French passport because I feel safe. I got help.
Yeah.
If I have a problem, French embassy help me.
Global Affairs Canada says it's helping Canadians by organizing flights out of neighboring countries since commercial airspace is closed over Iran and Israel.
I would prefer not to have to go to a neighboring country because it's really not the safest.
Canadians in Israel wanting to find their own way out, caught up in the confusion and delays.
I want to leave, but I currently don't have many great options right now.
Now I'm stuck here.
And then there are those who have no way to return home. Hussein Khodabaksh from Toronto, visiting his sick mother in Iran, has a Canadian work permit, but his visa application to return to Canada is in limbo.
We make a life outside of Iran and what's happening now is that we are some kind of homeless.
The Foreign Affairs Minister says thousands of Canadians remain in both countries, but with no Canadian embassy in Iran, Canadians there feel that is severely limiting what can be done to help them. Heather.
CTV's Kamal Kermali in Toronto. Thank you. Iran's nuclear agency confirmed that attacks hit its 3 atomic sites, but insisted that its work will not be stopped. Israel's prime minister addressed the attack on social media, full of praise for the American president.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed.
The U.S. strike is drawing condemnation from the Secretary General of the United Nations. In a social media post, Antonio Guterres wrote, "I am gravely alarmed by the use of force by the United States against Iran today. This is a dangerous escalation in a region already on the edge and a direct threat to international peace and security." For more on this developing situation, I want to bring in retired Major General David Fraser, CTV's military analyst. General, let's start with your immediate reaction to this attack.
Well, I'm surprised by the timing because, the president did give 2 weeks notice for everybody to do the diplomacy, but it certainly is not completely unexpected that we thought that only the United States could attack these 3 sites, and the fact that they've done it, it now changes the political calculus completely. We'll have to wait and see what Iran does in response.
And what are some of the many implications? Iran had warned the U.S. not to get involved.
Well, everybody wants this war to stop based on the fact that they've attacked the 3 sites. I don't think that's going to be possible. So we should be looking at some sort of retaliation back to Israel and American sites around the world now, either through terrorist organizations, cyber, or other direct attacks. We should also be watching what China and Russia does. I don't believe they will be directly involved, but they will be saying a lot of things in support of Iran.
Can you talk to us about the severity of this attack and what was used to make it happen?
Well, as many people in the United States military will call this tactical, it really is a strategic implication. It does change everything. The United States now is directly in support of Israel in the war against Iran. The word of the President of the United States, the forthcoming NATO meetings, we have never been in a more dangerous situation politically than we are right now. And anyone's guess is can be probably the next scenario of what Iran does, but Iran's going to do something.
And General, just quickly, what does this mean for Canadians in the region? It's already a very challenging situation to get people out.
I think any of the Canadian civilians who are in the region will be trying to find a way to get out. It will be very difficult. Any Canadian will be associated with an American. They will now be a subject of a target by some sort of Iranian sympathizers or whatnot. And for any military around the world, this is now everyone should be on heightened alert because something's going to happen either directly because of Iran or second or third order impacts because of Iran.
Retired Major General David Fraser, thank you for your insight. Turning to other news now, 4 people are missing after a helicopter crashed in northeastern Quebec. The chopper was in the process of a medical evacuation when it crashed into a lake near the community of Natashquan, about 1,000 kilometers northeast of Montreal. A 5th person was rescued and taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The House of Commons has risen for the summer, but not before Mark Carney's government passed a controversial bill that is still causing concerns for some Indigenous leaders. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has reaction and what comes next for the Prime Minister.
Congratulations, Prime Minister. Thank you. Congratulations, everyone. A legislative win for the Liberals to wrap up this government's first parliamentary session, but this contentious bill came with a new commitment Friday to consult with Indigenous community leaders through full-day summits this summer.
I will be meeting with First Nations rights holders on July 17th here in Ottawa. Inuit leadership in late July and Métis leadership soon thereafter.
The Prime Minister's promise comes after pushback from Indigenous communities across the country who now hope to see follow-through.
We're ready. We're here. We understand the urgency and we're ready to do this work. And so, I urge the Prime Minister to speak with First Nations leadership across this country before moving forward with anything.
Concerns the Prime Minister will have to address promptly, but despite the pushback, the government's key major projects bill, the only piece of legislation the Carney government passed in what was a short parliamentary session, is being touted as a success.
I don't think you can look at this past few weeks, this very short session of Parliament, Mark Carney's first as Prime Minister, and come away with any impression other than this Prime Minister is in complete control, not just of the House of Commons, but of the country's political agenda.
As for what's next, the Prime Minister heads to Europe Sunday ahead of a highly anticipated NATO summit next week, amid fresh criticism from Washington over Canada's defense spending.
You know who else was a low payer, just about the lowest? A place called Canada.
I would humbly suggest that I think the Secretary General of NATO is probably more up to speed on the numbers than the President of the United States.
But first, the Prime Minister will attend a Canada-EU summit in Brussels Monday, where he's expected to sign a security and defense partnership pact with European leaders. Heather?
Jeremy Sharon in Ottawa. Today marks National Indigenous Peoples Day, with events happening from coast to coast to coast in honor of tradition and culture. In St. John's, a large crowd marked National Indigenous Peoples Day, which occurs every year on the summer solstice. And in Toronto, the celebrations began with a sunrise ceremony in the city's downtown core. Events like these, filled with passion, replicated across the country. A summer heat wave is set to scorch parts of Ontario and Quebec, and Environment Canada says temperatures could reach their highest levels in 2 years.
I don't like anything about it, but we just have to adjust to it.
I'm ready to feel it and just be as uncomfortable or comfortable as possible.
A large area is under a severe heat warning, including all of southern Ontario and the southwestern Montreal area. Daytime temperatures are expected to reach as high as 36 degrees Celsius, with a humidex between 40 and 45. The heat wave is expected to last until Wednesday. To a major milestone now for the treatment of diabetes. A small but very powerful study of patients given a new kind of stem cell-based infusion no longer needed insulin. CTV's Avis Favreau on the Canadian woman who was praising this experimental treatment.
After a decade with type 1 diabetes, Amanda Smith has been liberated from the daily insulin and the dangerous sudden drops in blood sugar that threatened to send her into a diabetic coma.
I get emotional because I'm free from those handcuffs, I don't have that glooming over me every day.
She's one of 14 patients in a study using manufactured stem cells infused into her liver that produce the insulin and other hormones to manage her blood sugar levels. Scientists are reporting that of the 12 patients who received a single dose of these cells, all of them no longer had episodes of hypoglycemia, that blood sugar drop, and 10 of the 12 no longer needed insulin. In fact, Amanda's been insulin-free for nearly 2 years.
I don't have constant worry anymore. I can just live.
To be able to see, such a transformational change in their life is just amazing.
The stem cells are among the first off-the-shelf products made by this U.S. firm. Derived from embryonic cells, they're produced in large quantities like medications.
We know how they're going to function. So there's we think very little variability in the cells that are being transplanted into patients.
But Amanda now needs these anti-rejection drugs to stop her immune system from killing off those cells.
I would not think twice about it. Taking a couple pills 3 times a day is nothing.
2 patients in the study died, one likely from the immune drugs. Doctors say it shows the need for people to be monitored at transplant centers. The other died of dementia. In those whom it worked, it's still too early to say how long the cells will last or if they will cut diabetic complications down the road.
Big smiles, everyone.
The study is based on pioneering research in Edmonton 25 years ago. Doctors began first implanting insulin-producing cells from deceased organ donors, a successful program that continues but limited by supply.
We are no longer constrained by organ donors. We've got potentially a limitless source of cells that could be used. And that is a massively huge step forward in terms of a cell therapy becoming a reality.
The next phase of study is already underway as researchers test these cells in a total of 50 patients in Canada and the US, hoping the results lead to an approval of the treatment in the next 2 to 3 years. Heather?
Thanks, Avis. CTV's Avis Favreau in Toronto. Stay with us. CTV National News. We'll be right back. Halifax boasts a rich maritime heritage, and right now the naval presence is front and center with Fleet Week, a chance to bring the Navy closer to the community and to invite the public to come on board. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth has more on what life is like at sea.
It's a massive celebration to honor Halifax's naval tradition that goes back more than 250 years.
And the Navy played a significant role in World War II. The Navy plays a role in many conflicts around the world.
Community events are happening throughout the city for Fleet Week, including open house tours of HMCS Charlottetown and HMCS Margaret Brooke. It allows non-military members to experience life on board one of these vessels.
Trying to, compare it with what I see in the movies and the likes, it made me have a first-hand knowledge.
I think to have the ships downtown available for tours, the Navy with different music, celebration events, family-friendly events, sporting events. I think it just brings the Navy that much closer to the community. I think it's important for us to signal to Canadians and Haligonians here in particular what we do to protect Canadians' interests all across the world.
Fleet Week happens every 2 years in this city, a port which is rich in history and home base for more than 10,000 DND service members and employees. Halifax Deputy Mayor Tony Mancini says these public events promote openness and help remove any barriers civilians may feel toward the military and signal to members of the Navy that their service is appreciated.
People live in our community, they shop in our community, even the civilians that are tied into the Navy.
There's also international representation. This ship from Denmark is also open to the public. The open invite to the majestic vessel is a signature part of Fleet Week, which wraps up on Sunday. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Still ahead, a tale of two lawyers. How this mother-daughter duo inspired each other to be called to the bar. Pope Leo today publicly addressing abuse scandals in the Catholic Church for the first time. The pontiff saying the church must establish a culture that refuses to tolerate abuse in any form. In his address, Leo also warned about the challenges humanity faces from AI. At an age when many are thinking about retirement, an Ontario mom is proving you're never too old to reinvent yourself. This week, Lori Butler was called to the bar in Ontario at the same time as her daughter, who challenged her mother to go to law school. Here's CTV's John Benavalli-Rao.
We are lawyers. You're a lawyer. You're a lawyer. Cool. High five. High five.
To meet this mother-daughter duo was not only joyful, but truly inspirational.
We are both each other's cheerleaders. We're kind of like a mutual admiration society.
A pair of legal beagles happy to show how they hugged moments after making history. Both mom and daughter called to the bar in Ontario, becoming lawyers at the very same ceremony.
It's exciting to be able to celebrate it, but to be able to do it alongside my mother. My mother's my best friend. She's my biggest supporter. She's the reason that I did this in the first place. And so to be able to go through it with her and experience the same emotions together with it, it's unique. It's one of a kind. It's very surreal.
Megan's mom, Lori, had been a teacher for much of her career and homeschooled Megan, who 5 years ago got accepted into law school. At the time, Mom mentioned how she wished she too had studied law.
And I said, what's stopping you from doing it?
At first, Mom, then in her 50s, thought it would be too tough to get in, but decided to give it a try and got accepted.
We both cried together because she remembered how thrilling it was when she got accepted to law school. So that was really neat.
They were a year apart, and went to different universities, but would help each other out.
Did you compare notes? Did you?
Yeah, she sent me her notes all the time.
And at this ceremony this week, both officially became lawyers.
Lori Lynn Butler.
Mom crossing the stage first, and then Megan.
It's incredible. I meet so many people who tell me, like people my age, who tell me that their parent wished that they could have gone to law school or had talked about it and had an interest in it. And it's exciting to say to them, your parent could do it. My parent did. My mom did it. My mom will be the one to tell your mom that she should go to law school. So it's very exciting to be able to tell people that.
Mom says she's humbled when she hears she's an inspiration as she steps into her legal career next to her daughter. John Venevalley Rouse, CTV News, London, Ontario.
Still ahead, reconnecting with the past. How this traditional art form is being used to keep Indigenous culture alive. As we mentioned earlier, today marks National Indigenous Peoples Day. For many, it's a chance to reflect on the past and take hold of the future. CTV's Alison Bamford caught up with a couple of Indigenous artists to learn how they are reclaiming their culture.
Let's go with a blue.
Each bead, each color is picked with purpose.
These are my favorite ones to do.
Strung together from a good place.
Because our teaching is whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking while you're creating art or food for someone else, you have to feel good because that what you're feeling is going to be gifted outwards.
Honey Constant Inglis learned to bead from the matriarchs in their family. The craft is the invisible string that's slowly mending the two-spirit artist.
Finding what makes me feel beautiful and pretty has helped me become more confident by saying I'm a two-spirit person, by saying I'm an Indigenous archaeologist. So I pick it up with the needle.
Azaria Tottenham didn't always embrace her Indigenous roots either. Growing up, her family hid that part of their identity.
They did it at any cost to avoid the fact that they were Indigenous and denied that a lot.
Today, each stitch brings the 20-year-old closer to her culture.
This was my very first piece of beadwork that I ever worked on. It's a reminder of where I started.
And how far she's come. Her artwork's been shared as far away as Spain and Panama.
Since reconnecting with culture, it's completely changed who I am. Like I'm a whole new person in terms of where I feel like I have a place in the world.
For Constant Inglis, sharing their culture has taught them more about others.
In our language, we say Wogotuin, which is a natural teaching that we're all connected. We are more family than we are apart.
A big lesson learned from the tiniest of beads. Alison Bamford, CTV News, on Treaty 6 territory.
That is our newscast for this Saturday night. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.